Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. I am a new sewist with a goal of sewing my own wardrobe. In this video, I will be destashing my fabric stash, finally getting to use some of this lovely green linen that I've had for quite some time now, and I will be making a green square neck mini dress. I am so excited. I've been putting off this project for a long time, mainly because I didn't know if I was ready to do it, but I finally have the courage and the motivation to just go through with it, so let's do it. Hey, future Sarah here. Before we get into making this green dress, let's take a step back into the past and look at the mock-up I made. I want to show you all of the things that went right and all the things I plan to improve upon in the final version of this dress. So first up, when I made this dress, I really loved the square neckline detail, but when I actually ended up trying it out, I realized that it was not going to work for me. The way that the pattern is cut, you cut the straps like with the bodice, and they just like flopped awkwardly on me. I do kind of have small shoulders, I'm petite, so that might have been why. So what I ended up doing is just creating my own straps, and then I tied them just to make things easy. So I was kind of struggling getting them to be the right length to not just like slip off of my shoulders. So that's something I would do differently in the final product. I plan to have thicker straps, and they're going to be encased in a facing, or I guess it's kind of a lining, a quasi lining. I'm just going to line the bodice. So that's the plan for that. Another thing I'd change is I definitely want to go with an invisible zipper on the final product. As you can see here, I did use a nice zipper, but I don't like that you can see it. I mean, maybe it's not that visible, but it kind of bothers me. As you know, you can be your own worst critic when you make things that you wouldn't even really care about that much when you buy ready-to-wear stuff. Oh, and one more thing is I feel like the bodice is a little bit too high up. I mean, I do like a nice high neckline, but it just kind of came a little too high up. So I'd rather have it sit a little more low, kind of like this tank top, honestly, like where it gives me good range of movement in the bust and the my armpit area, I guess. So I think I'm gonna probably cut down, honestly, probably about like an inch of fabric, fold that under. So I'll do like a 1-inch seam allowance whenever I sew on the facing slash lining of the bodice, and I think that should do the trick. But yeah, I'm off to go ahead and watch like 10 tutorials of how to sew an invisible zipper because I've never done one. So we'll see how this turns out. Alrighty, let's make some darts. I'm still learning how to perfect darts, but this is the method I have found that works best for me. I mark the darts while the pattern is pinned to the fabric, and then I fold the outlines of the triangles together with the right sides of the fabric touching. As you can see, sometimes it takes a lot of trial and error. I kept poking my pin through and finding that it didn't align with the line on the other side of the fabric, so I pretty much just kept poking it on through until the pin matched the line I drew on both sides of the fabric. This process made me a little nervous because if I pinned them shoddily and then sewed them in that same way, the dress would look amateur. So I really took my time until the darts looked uniform. Finding matching thread for this green linen was surprisingly difficult. There were definitely thread colors that were similar, but I was looking for an exact match. In the end, I picked up this Gutterman thread that still isn't an exact match, but you can't really tell at all once it's sewed into the fabric. Back to those darts. Because I was being so careful to make them as perfect as possible, I decided to hand baste them before sewing them on my machine, and I would say this is the best decision I made. I will totally be hand basting all of my darts in the future. It's also lovely to not have to sew darts with pins in the way. When I came up to the tip of the dart, I decreased my stitch length and used my hand wheel to sew off the end of the dart without back stitching. Then I hand knotted the thread to allow for a cleaner finish and hopefully no puckering. Something I love so much about sewing is that the amount of techniques is boundless, but there's so many lovely people online who are willing to share their knowledge. I could not have sewn this dress or any of the other garments I've made if it weren't for them. Okay, back to the darts again. A good press is essential. The bodice will be a focal point, so I want to make sure it looks as clean as possible. I've been making the lining and the main fabric bodices simultaneously. The pattern already allows for a 1-inch seam allowance, which is super helpful for fitting. In making my mock-up, I found that a 1 1/4 inch seam allowance was perfect for the side seams. For me. I don't know why I didn't think of this when I was making the mock-up, but it dawned on me that I could pin and sew both side panels at the same time. Look at me, learning how to be more efficient. It's finally try-on time. I will say this process is definitely easier with a second person to help. But I had this idea to use a clothespin to pin up the back, and it actually did a pretty good job. As I mentioned when I showed you the mock-up, the top of the bodice comes up awkwardly high, so I decided to fold it over by 1 inch to get an idea of how it would look once that edge was finished. Since this tank top that I'm wearing hit pretty much exactly where I hoped the neckline and armholes of the dress would hit, I folded the edges until they lined up with the tank top. Now we're in good shape. I'm pinning where I want the straps to go. Again, I use the tank top straps as my guide. And I thought I had really cracked the code with the clothespin idea until the top just decided to bust open. So take it from me, get another person to pin the bodice for you. I ended up getting my husband to measure the pin section as well, and that came out to 2 inches. Okay, so I'm feeling a little bit better now that the bodice fits me. I cut off an excess 1.5 inches, which kind of makes me wonder if I should have just gone down a size with the dress, but I chose the size small based on my measurements, which matched what the sizing chart told me that my size would be a small. So I don't know if the sizing chart is off, or maybe I don't know how to measure myself well, but whatever. So cut off a whole chunk on the back seam there, and I'm really, really eager to attach the lining to the bodice just because I've never done that, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. But everything that I'm reading tells me that you need to basically complete the shell of the dress, attach the invisible zipper before you go in and put in the lining. So that's what I'm gonna do, and because I have to do that first, that means that now I need to work on gathering the skirt. So that's the next step. Let's get to it. Okay, hello. This is not the ideal angle, but we're working with limited space here. So I'm gonna work on the skirt, assembling the skirt now. So what I have is 2 side skirt pieces and 1 front skirt piece. I'm going to sew the 2 side skirt pieces to the front skirt piece. Then I'm going to do 1 super long basting stitch, and then we can attach to the bodice. And I'm also going to serge those seams to make my life easy. So I've learned that hand basting is definitely the way to go. I ended up having to go that route, not by choice, but after doing 2 rounds of basting stitches using my machine, and I was trying to gather up the linen, I found that it was like really hard for me to gather it up. I guess it's stiffer fabric necessitates other methods. I don't know. It just wasn't working for me, even though it has worked for me in the past. So I just switched it up and decided to do some hand basting, and oh my God, it turned out so good. I think that I'm just going to become a hand baster from now on when it comes to gathering stitches, because I had so much more control of the ruffles that were created, whereas when I use the machine basting stitches, I just couldn't really get the gathers to sit exactly where I wanted them to. So no more machine basting for me. Like, look how pretty these gathers are. And take a moment to appreciate lining up the side seams. Perfect. Almost perfect, but we'll take it. And yeah, here's how the dress is looking. I just hope it fits. So I watched another few tutorials, and you actually can insert the bodice lining before you put in the invisible zipper. So that's what I'm gonna do. And then after I do that, I am gonna have to put a pin in it for today. Unfortunately, I really wanted to get the dress done this weekend, but it's looking like that won't be able to happen because the zipper foot that I ordered, well, the invisible zipper foot, isn't gonna be here until Monday, maybe even Tuesday. Today is Saturday. So yeah, I just can't finish the dress this weekend. But I really want to do it right, so I am making it a point to order that invisible zipper foot, because right now I don't even have a regular zipper foot, and that's just not going to give me the finish that I'm looking for. I'm trying to make this one as professional as possible. So I'll go ahead and put in that lining, and then I'll see you on Monday. Hello, it is Sunday. It is not Monday. I had a lot to do over the course of last week. I actually attended my first ever market yesterday, so the majority of last week was spent finishing up all of my projects. That video is forthcoming, so I will share with you what items I made for the market and how I did selling me-made items for the very first time. But that aside, today is all devoted to the dress, the lovely green square neck mini linen dress that I have been working on for 2 weeks now, if you can believe that. But today's the day. So I've got my invisible zipper foot in hand. All I really need to do at this point is install the invisible zipper foot, attach the lining to the invisible zipper foot. We'll go through that. I've also watched a lot of tutorials on that, so hopefully it goes well, and then hem the dress, and then I'm literally done. So I don't know about you, but I am ready to finish this bad boy, so let's get to it. Oh, I'm kind of nervous. All right, first invisible zipper, go. Whew. Okay, while I would love to say that the invisible zipper was a breeze and I just coasted on through it, that's not the truth. Maybe there will come a day when I don't fear invisible zippers, but damn, in order to get things looking acceptable, I had to go over the stitches like 3 times. I wasn't sewing close enough to the teeth. On top of that, I'm kind of delirious because it's 2 p.m. and I haven't eaten any food. I don't know if you could relate to that, where you kind of get zoned in on a project and everything else around you just isn't important. But I definitely need to take a break to eat something. And then I think I should be ready to attach the lining to the zipper and then hem it on up and call it a day. And here's to hoping that this dress fits me, because if it doesn't, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm definitely feeling so much better now that I have some food in me. I ended up making some avocado toast and it definitely hit the spot. So cue the sewing montage. Okay, so I'm actually obsessed with this dress. I'm totally in love with it. I think it turned out amazing. It far surpassed my expectations. I'm honestly beaming because I've never made something fitted like this before. Now though, for the pattern review, and I will be completely honest, I'm gonna just give my unfiltered review, but specifically from a beginner's perspective. Okay, I think it will be easier to talk about the pros and the cons. So let's tackle the pros first. I really like that this pattern taught me a whole lot about fitting. Built into the pattern is a 1-inch seam allowance for all of the seams except for the neckline seam. So I think the pattern maker was really smart for giving you that extra seam allowance, just knowing that doing something fitted to a bunch of different body types is going to necessitate a bunch of alterations. So I appreciated that, and I did use the generous seam allowance. I ended up cutting out a little bit more. So on my seam allowance, I ended up going about 1 1/4 of an inch on all of the seams. So I really appreciated that extra seam allowance that was built in. And then I also really just like the classic silhouette of this dress, the nice cinched in waist with the gathered skirt, just super cute. And yeah, I mean, I definitely love this dress and can see myself wearing it a whole lot. But as far as the pattern itself, I do want to talk about some cons to it, especially from a beginner's point of view. One of those cons being the fact that the instructions on the pattern are very sparse. So they kind of imply that you already have a good amount of sewing knowledge going into it. And this was a little tricky for me because the pattern maker does say that beginners should be able to sew this pattern, and ultimately I was able to, but not without a lot of help. I was able to internalize a lot of the fine details a lot better by watching YouTubers such as So Anastasia. Honestly, her invisible zipper videos were like my holy grail while I was trying to make this dress. So I had to use a lot of supplemental material in order to get this dress completed. The dress is marketed as having a square neckline bodice, which it does, but if I were to have cut out the dress the way that the pattern suggested, the bodice just did not fit me. It was super awkward. The straps were like way over in my armpit, and again, this could just be a body type issue because I am petite, I have smaller shoulders, so I tend to have to make a lot of alterations to things in the bust and shoulder department anyway, but I ended up having to make a lot of modifications to the bodice in that realm. So I just cut off the suggested straps on the bodice and ended up attaching my own using YouTube tutorials on how to install a lining in a dress. So yeah, I would say I didn't feel like that part of the bodice, you know, the straps were super applicable to me. All in all, given the pros and the cons, I would give this particular pattern 3.5 stars. Although I ended up loving the dress, I feel like I had to put in so much extra work to make it happen. So this 3.5 stars is definitely taken from a beginner's perspective. If you're more experienced, you might just be able to whip this up, full lining and all, without issue, and maybe you'll find my cons to not be cons to you at all. That is my honest review, and all in all, I am just so proud of this dress, and I can't wait to wear it out in the real world. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one where I sew up something else.